Chapter 22, Sweet. A family of 5 slept straight until dinner time. If the doorbell hadn't rung, waking Du-Rua and Qixin, they wouldn't have known when they slept. Qixin rubbed his face and stood up to open the door. Du-Rua got out of bed to tidy up her clothes, conveniently went to the toilet to wash her face, and pinned her hair up. Not long after, a loud noise came from outside. "Boss, is it sister-in-law coming?" A voice asked hurriedly. "Wow, I heard there are 3 little friends." It sounded like they really liked little boys. Standing strictly, Qixin was annoying. As soon as he opened the door, the group of people squeezed in, he couldn't stop them, and they were still chattering non-stop. If they woke up his daughter, it would be over. He remembered that terrifying Yu when she got out of bed. He still had a bit of fear in his heart. In theory, such a child, why would she get angry when she got out of bed? When Du-Rua walked out, she immediately discovered that Qixin's face darkened as he looked at the group of men in front of him who were standing straight, moving their lips, still unable to hold back their laughter. This image was very sympathetic. Hearing the sound, he immediately turned around, opened his mouth to introduce, "This is my wife." Everyone loudly greeted, "Hello sister-in-law, sister-in-law." "Hello everyone." Du-Rua generously nodded to everyone. Qixin secretly complained, "These brats, it turns out that when they usually shout so loudly, they still don't have all their strength." Inside the military district, except for the family members, there are only a few women in the hospital. Those brats saw Du-Rua and they weren't like before, pushing and shoving, impatient, they all stood at attention, as if they were about to be inspected by the chief of the army. Qixin smiled unkindly, feeling that his wife's aura was truly powerful. Cough cough. Feeling smug in his heart, only he could bear it. Du-Rua also had no way. This kind of situation had been discovered since she was in America. Logically speaking, although she was beautiful and not liked by women, she should be welcomed by men. However, the people around her would always be very formal towards her, like a student seeing a disciplined teacher, but in fact, women who had been in contact with her for a long time would feel relatively easy to approach. Qixin was not used to seeing the stupid appearance of these little guys. "Shanzi, don't stand here like a fool, what's the matter here?" He kicked the leg of the person beside him, urging him in dissatisfaction. Report. Chen Shaoshan smiled and walked out of the line. Du-Rua heard this sound and knew that the little guy had just asked, "We want to invite sister-in-law and the little friends to eat at the cafeteria. Is your food really delicious?" The voice was vague, confused, and vague, but also carried a bit of babbling. It was obvious, knocking everyone down. Everyone followed the sound and looked back, only to see a plump little boy standing in front of the master bedroom door, looking like he had just woken up. His little hand was rubbing his eyes. Because of sleeping, his clothes had slipped down, revealing a small, fleshy shoulder, and a pair of soft, white legs. So cute. "Mom, hug." Little Qixin ignored the group of people who were being silly and went straight to his mother. Du-Rua hugged her son. The 3 little guys loved to cling to her, but her little son was the most clingy. She kissed her son's forehead. "Only you are awake?" "Ah." Qixin's 2 hands hugged her mother's neck, still not wanting to leave, rubbing a few times, making Qixin angry, but couldn't do anything, could only secretly grit her teeth. Must urge someone to quickly bring the household items over, otherwise those brats would definitely be bad things. Not to mention not having a wife by her side, now being by her side and not being able to eat. Isn't that very tragic? Feeling the gaze beside her intently looking at her burning hot, Du-Rua's ears couldn't help but turn red. Remembering the kiss in the child's room, couldn't help but pray the household items would come a little later. She lovingly patted Qixin's velvety soft hair. "Xian, go tell your older brother and sister to get up." Qixin slid down from his mother, his eyes rolling around. "Do we want to eat with these uncles?" Everyone nodded vigorously, afraid that the little angel would not agree. Saying that they were eating in the cafeteria, it was probably because those guys felt that the training was tiring, and also took this opportunity to relax a bit. At first glance it was considered a simple welcoming party. All the people who came were soldiers and their families of the officers of Qixin's 3rd platoon. The moment his whole family arrived at the cafeteria, they immediately became the focus of the whole school. The whole family, Qixin was wearing a straight military uniform, extremely handsome and majestic. Next to him Du Rua was wearing a dress, with a coat on the outside, elegant and gentle. The three little guys, needless to say, were cleaned up by her, wearing pink little clothes, exceptionally adorable elves. A major with a very elegant demeanor walked up to him, smiling and punching him in the chest. "Are you envious that we are still single?" Wu Shuwen and Qixin grew up in the same compound. Although they were not as close as Qinyan and Xiangxing and Qixin, they were considered childhood friends with Qixin. Therefore, when Qixin got married, he also knew, but had never seen the three children. Qixin was not shy, happily laughing, showing a stinking expression that was exactly like Qi Hao. "This matter, I don't envy you." Receiving a few punches from everyone. Everyone saw Du Rua being gentle, and also rushed forward to greet her. Yang Kaiqing and Zhou Rui brought their wives to Du Rua and introduced them. "Sister-in-law, this is my wife." Yang Kaiqing pointed at his wife. "Sister-in-law, this is my wife and the child." Zhou Rui was holding a little baby who looked to be about 2 years old, and was holding a woman's hand. Du Rua smiled as she looked at Yang Xingxing, who was wearing fashionable makeup, and Zhao Xiaoman, who was naturally relaxed. Recognizing these two as members of the group of military wives from this afternoon. "Hello everyone. I just arrived here, I might need your care more in the future." "Haha, of course, when the man in the house was sent, we also followed here." Yang Jingxing laughed. When Du Rua had not arrived yet, in the third platoon she and Zhao Xiaoman had the most power. Now she was naturally a head shorter than the other person, feeling really uncomfortable. Zhao Xiaoman's expression changed slightly, quickly trying to remedy the situation. "Sister-in-law, if you need any help, just say so." Smiling in her heart, she naturally wouldn't take it to heart. Du Rua said a word of thanks, rolled her eyes and looked at the little darling in Zhao Xiaoman's arms, reached out and touched her soft cheek, smiling and squinting her eyes. "So cute." Hearing others praise her children, Zhao Xiaoman laughed. "Where can they compare to your children?" After speaking, she looked at the three little ones with envy. Her husband really liked children. It was a pity that soldiers could only give birth to one child. She smiled apologetically at Du Rua. "Sister-in-law, your family hasn't been sorted out yet, right? If you have time, bring the children to my house to sit for a bit." The children were all raised so well, she had to learn from others. "I can learn from you." Du Rua smiled and agreed, but at this moment, Yang Xingxing made a humph sound and turned to leave. Zhao Xiaoman said sorry to Du Rua, ran after her, leaving Du Rua to look at Yang Xingxing's back as if she was thinking. "Mom, come here quickly." Qi Yu sat in her father's lap, happily waving to her mother. At this time, Yang Kaiqing was reading a speech on the stage. Du Rua saw Yang Jingxing standing proudly beside her husband. "What's wrong?" Actually, Qixin was on stage, but he was willing to stay by his wife's side. He discovered that his wife seemed to be looking at Yang Kaiqing's wife the whole time. He couldn't help but frown. Could it be that that woman was bullying his wife? Du Rua looked at the nervous man with amusement, but in her heart, because he could always notice her changing moods, she felt warm. "It's nothing." She didn't look at that person anymore. Although she was a doctor, she wasn't interested in rushing to treat others. "Look carefully before speaking." Her attention was quickly attracted by the three children. "Daddy. I want this." Qi Hao gently tugged on Daddy's sleeve, pointing at the small snack on the table. "Okay." Daddy Qi quickly took a piece for his child. "Daddy, I want." Qi Yu and little Xian also fought over Daddy to serve them. Du Rua did not help, looking extremely disgusted at the man's flustered state. Perhaps because they had not seen Daddy for a long time, the three children had stuck to Qixin's side all night, not even paying attention to their beloved mother. However, it was clear that someone was being enslaved very happily. Everyone in the cafeteria opened their eyes wide, seemingly unable to recognize that a normally cold-faced man was now showing the appearance of a nanny and slave to his wife. Because there was still training the next day, the welcoming party ended early. Back home, the children had washed up, their excitement still not over, on the bed. Qixin looked at the three little guys with a resentful face, then looked at the closed bathroom door. his heart filled with love and hate. Seemingly feeling his father's resentful gaze, Qi Xian sat on the bed, raised his head to look at his father. "Dad, you want to go to the toilet?" Usually, when Qi Hao wanted to go to the toilet but couldn't find the toilet, he would have this kind of expression. "Dad, I know, there's a toilet down there." Qiyu shook her pigtails, sharing with her dad what she had just discovered. Dad must be impatient. Qi Hao's expression was, "You guys don't understand, Dad, you can go in and tell Mom, then you can go to the toilet." Normally when he wanted to go to the toilet, even when Qiyu was taking a bath, there was no problem. Qi Shen's eyes lit up, he rushed in front of Qi Hao, his big hand lifted his little face, kissed it. "You're so amazing." He patted the other two heads and went into the bathroom. The little kids looked at their dad's hurried figure, sympathetically. "Dad, so pitiful." Qi Hao seemed to understand very well and nodded, affirming that it was really hard to endure. "Mom is so miserable." Qiyu whispered, on the side. Little Shan nodded with sympathy. Every time Qi Hao went to the bathroom while they were bathing, it was very smelly. Qi Shan walked a few steps to the toilet door. From inside came the sound of rushing water. That sound was like a cat's claws scratching his inner self, wave after wave, creating ripples, making one's mind unable to help but be absent-minded, wandering and uncertain. While taking a bath, Du Rua heard the sound of the door opening, turned around in surprise to look at the man who came in, looked at the bathroom door lock. "How did you get in? If you want, open it." The corner of his lips lifted, carrying a trace of an unkind smile, lazily looking towards his wife. In the steamy bathroom, she was standing under the shower. Her figure graceful, her legs long and slender, transparent and pure, like white jade condensed into flesh, carving out an elegant and wonderful curve, full of charming charm, making people unable to breathe. His gaze became even darker. He couldn't help but take a step forward and hug his wife into his arms. Du Rua instantly felt like a cooked shrimp, her whole body turned red. You, aren't you taking a bath?" She was so nervous that she forgot to struggle. "Ha ha ha!" Qi Shen's happy laughter came from the bathroom. Fingers caressing the white and smooth flesh, he lowered his head to kiss the jade-like transparent shoulder, slowly kissing up along the nape of her neck. When his two hands tightly hugged her waist, her legs felt weak. She knew the general situation was lost, reached out to hug the man's head, intermittently said, "The child is still outside. Playing tired, they will sleep." He hurriedly kissed her lips. Dissatisfied that his wife was not attentive at this time, hugged her a little tighter, making her soft and beautiful body without any gaps stick tightly to him. In the bathroom, the mist was vast, beautiful and fragrant, emitting charming gasps, playing a charming spring melody. Wait until he hugged her whole body, flushed red, weak and powerless, and walked out. The three little darlings on the big bed had already fallen asleep. He looked at the person in his arms, his face filled with tenderness. Tonight was really tiring her out. He leaned over and contentedly kissed her forehead, until the sound of steady breathing was heard, then he entered a sweet dream.